Now that you've seen a good variety of elastics, I'll show you several ways to apply it. To use elastic, you either slide it through a fabric tunnel called a casing, or stretch it out over a flat piece of fabric and stitch through it. It comes in handy for all sorts of uses, around a neckline, on sleeve and pant cuffs. You can even use it instead of darts to shape a silhouette. Let's get started. First, you want to consider the characteristics of the stitch you plan to use. You have two basic choices, a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. A straight stitch doesn't stretch. Zigzag stitches will stretch, but even a zigzag won't stretch if the elastic is attached one-to-one to a woven fabric. In order for elastic to work the way you want it to, which is stretch and recover without tearing your garment or breaking threads, it has to be sewn in an extended or stretched state to your fabric. This is not at all difficult, but it does take a degree of care while you're sewing. I'll demonstrate with clear elastic to show you how you would sew a swimsuit edge. This edge doesn't need to gather much. It just needs to pull in enough to keep the legs or top edge snug to the body. I usually mark the elastic the length I want, but don't cut it. Because I'm using a fabric with a lot of stretch, I choose a zigzag stitch. I start sewing with a back stitch to lock the thread. Then, with each end of the elastic aligned with its corresponding fabric end, pull the elastic until it fits the edge and start stitching over the elastic while it's stretched. Now a word of caution here. Your hands are pulling in opposite directions as you pass the fabric through the presser foot. Be careful not to overpower the feed dogs or you can break the needle. This isn't much of a problem with this lightweight clear elastic, but with heavy-duty elastic, if you lose your grip and the elastic snaps back, you can pull the needle, bend it, and even break it. Make sure that you are pulling in both directions with the same amount of force so the elastic isn't exerting any pressure on the needle. For this swimsuit edge, you align the elastic edge to the fabric edge on the wrong side and stitch. Then, fold the fabric along the elastic edge to the wrong side and stitch again. This rolls the elastic inside the fabric and provides a gentle stretch to the edge. Here's a similar application technique, but for an entirely different use. In this case, I'll use very narrow elastic to gather in a section of fabric for fit. You can see how this elasticized smocking can nip in around a waist or under a bust to add fit to an otherwise flowing garment. Basically, the same rules apply, but for this you don't align the elastic to the raw edge, you stitch in the body of the fabric in a defined area. Here, lines were marked to define the beginning and end of the row. Determine how much you want to draw up this section and establish that distance as the length of your elastic. Again, I don't cut it, just mark it to the right length. Get the elastic started with several back stitches to anchor the thread and then pull the elastic until its mark matches the section boundaries. Stitch over the elastic with a zigzag stitch, back stitch at the remaining end. Clip the elastic and repeat the same steps in as many rows as it takes to fill the area. The waistband is certainly one of the most common uses for elastic. I'll show you several ways to use a casing next. But first, you should see how you can use the elastic as a waistband itself. If you are making a pull-on pair of pants, keep several things in mind. The waist has to pull over the hips, often without any help from a zipper. For this reason, the darts around the waist are usually eliminated. Try on your pants without the elastic to make sure they pull up comfortably. Next, wrap the elastic around your waist and safety pin the ends together. Then slide it down over your hips. This is just to check the fit and make sure you can get in and out of the pants easily. When you are sure the fit is good and you can cut the elastic to size, cut it to the exact size because the ends will abut. Next, splice the ends together. For this, I wrap a scrap of smooth fabric around the elastic ends, put the joined ends under the presser foot, and sew a square to secure the scrap, and then stitch back and forth over the abutted edges. Then mark the elastic circle in quarters. Pin one long elastic edge over the top raw pant edge, aligning the quarter marks with the seams, keeping the splice centered on the back seam. Take the work to your machine and stretch the elastic between seams to fit the fabric as you stitch. Cross over the stitching at the end. Remove the work from the machine. Turn the elastic under and then fold and pin the edge so that it's extending beyond the elastic. Stitch along the edge, catching the stretched elastic, and remove from the machine. Then, with the elastic on top, put it back under the presser foot, stretch the elastic in opposite directions, and edge stitch from the inside. Stop and start to get a fresh grip. Here's the waistband.